Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing my next palette roulette, in which I choose a palette in my collection to use, to utilize, to challenge myself with for an entire week, and then I come back to you and I discuss my experiences with said palette, and I hope that you're in for it. It's not necessarily a new palette, not necessarily an old palette. It's just a palette that's not getting any use in my collection. I do have like 190 palettes, so it's my way of trying to get some use out of everything in my collection at some point in time or another. So this is like episode 150 or something like that. 154, 150. I can't remember, but you guys, this has been a long ass series. So I do it because I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it too. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. So happy to meet you today. So happy that you could join us on our channel here, and I hope that you'll want to stick around at the end of it. I am a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. Hello, look at the eyeballs. And I hope that you find that I am kindred to the spirit that's within you. I am definitely going to be out here doing what soothes my soul, giving you all the education that I get as a professional in the beauty industry, and also just loving on all the makeup. So if you are also loving on all the makeup and like a little bit of education, a little bit of beauty chit chat all the time, I am here. I am here for you. I just hope that you find that this place warms your soul. Today we are going over the Glamlite cake palette, and this was exciting for me. This was my first experience with Glamlite, and you know, I'd heard so much about Glamlite all last year, which is what put them on my radar in the first place and why I wanted to try them out this year. And a few months ago I did purchase a bunch of stuff from Glamlite. I got some of their lip glosses. I got a loose highlighter, which just totally isn't my thing, but I also got quite a few palettes. This was my first experience with them. In the palettes that I purchased, I haven't used any of them until this last week, and I'm really excited about this palette, where I do not 100% understand all of the hype on it. I do see why people love this palette. So let's dig in. This is the cake palette, and this is by Glamlite Beauty, and Glamlite Beauty is owned by a woman named Giselle. Giselle or Giselle? I think it's Giselle. I watched her video and I think it's Giselle. She created Glamlite Beauty in the absolute depths of where she felt she was as a person. It came out of the fire and brimstone of the hell that she was living in her life right then. She, you know, was at her worst as far as her ego went, and her, not ego as in like egomaniacal, but ego as in her self-worth, how she felt about herself. She was in the absolute depths of a place that she didn't want to be in. And she took her love for food and her love for makeup and combined them together to make the pizza palette, which was the first palette that was born of Glamlite Beauty. And I just find that thought process, like taking something that is just harboring so much desperation within you and making something of it, is always something that warms my heart, because that's really where you see the most successful people, is trying to come out from the embers that were once what they thought that they were, right? That was what she thought she was what she visualized her self-worth as. Their motto is that beauty isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of mentality, and it's definitely not. It's definitely not. They pride themselves on having, you know, pigmentations and color stories that are really for everyone. And while some might argue that some of their color stories are really not for everybody, everybody could use at least one rainbow palette in their life, and rainbow isn't all that she goes after. That is what is in this palette, but that isn't all that she goes after. And I think that she's got some really great color stories. The pizza palette I didn't quite get, honestly, but there's a couple. Her taco palette, I love the little mini taco palette. It is so cute. This has a 5-star rating on the Glamlite website. It only has 33 reviews, so I'm not really certain, number one, that I trust a 5-star rating, but number two, that I trust a 5-star rating with 33 reviews. There was not one, 2, or 3-star rating on that website. But Google does have it at 4.9 stars, 41 reviews. That's not very many reviews as well. There's only one 1-star review. And that comes more from a customer service perspective than a palette perspective. I would say that I would rank this probably in the 4.4 to 4.8 stars. I don't think that this is a horrible palette. I do think that this is a really functional palette. This is a palette that has 0.95 ounces of product. So that means each one of the shadows in this palette has 0.047 ounces of product, 0.0475 bumps it right up to that 0.048, which bumps it up to that 0.05, which is where most shadow companies go after. And that puts it right into the same kind of realm that you're going to see in almost every single eyeshadow palette out there, except for Ebates, which actually their pans are quite a bit smaller. But ColourPop, Morphe, they all have the same kind of thought process, or the same kind of weight structure when it comes to their single shadow pans. This is a $40 palette. I do think that that's a tad bit expensive, but it is an indie brand, right? So, in addition to that, it's an indie brand that has a ton of affiliate links out there and codes that you can use to get a percentage off your purchase. I didn't really know. I forget about codes. So I didn't use one when I purchased mine, but I also got all the stuff that I got from Glamlite on a killer sale. And I got like 4 palettes and 6 lip glosses and a loose powder and a eyeliner and a brush. $69. Like, I got a ton of stuff for super, super cheap. So that being said, watch, there are deals, there are sales out there that you can take advantage of. This palette is cruelty-free, it is vegan, it is allergen tested, and it has 20 ultra pigmented eyeshadows in it. It's ranging in formulation from mattes to shimmers, and there is, I think, 1 duochrome in there as well. The packaging, when you get it, comes in this really cute PR box, but this is what is sent for every single one of the palettes, and the palette just sits very snugly in there. And then when you close it up, it says cake across it. And it is so, so cute. And this is what the back of that container looks like. So really cute packaging. The video that I watched on this, Giselle said that she is also a consumer. She doesn't get much in PR. You know, she's a brand owner and a consumer. And when she orders palettes that are being shown on YouTube by these content creators that are getting it in PR, like, they come with this like extravagant packaging, and then she orders the palette and she gets it and she's like, oh, that's not what I saw on YouTube. So she wanted to create packaging for this palette that everybody could feel the same way that the people that were getting it in PR felt, which is why the oven. So I think this is cute packaging. This is packaging that I will always keep on my palette. I'm not a person that keeps packaging very often, but all the packaging for these palettes is just phenomenal. This cake was based on an actual cake, and I think that you can see that when you actually look at the cake. It looks very realistic. It's based off of an actual cake made by a baker in the area that she is in, and she asked for permission to use the likeness of this baker's cake on her presentation for her palette. And I just thought that that was amazing because it does look very realistic. It looks like a cake that you want to put in your mouth. It looks like something you want to, I want to eat it. I do. I want to eat it. The back of the packaging has nutrition facts on it, which I thought was super cute. So it does tell you the net weight, 0.95 ounces. What that means in grams is 27 grams, which is crazy. Amount per serving, 0 calories. Calories from fat, 0. So you can, she stated in the video that she did so that you could have your cake without guilt. I thought that that was fantastic. And all the shade names in this palette are named after cakes. And a lot of people would argue that because there's a lot of like fruity names in here. So banana, pineapple, strawberry, peach, guava. But she also lends you into some insight on her culture. And the culture uses a lot of fruit, raw, you know, fruit, bananas and guava to make their cakes tasteful. She had never heard of something like red velvet cake until she was an adult. So I just thought that that was an interesting, the story behind this palette is very interesting. So I'm going to link her video if I can find it, because I found it on the Glamlite website. So if I can find the video on this cake palette, this launch video that she did, I will link it down in my description box, because it's just a truly interesting video. Let's dig in here. So this is what the packaging looks like. Again, it's based on a real cake. This is what the back looks like. Again, nutrition facts, super cute. And then on the inside, you do get a full-size mirror, which is a very nice mirror. It does bend all the way back. The magnet on it isn't fantastic, but again, it does come in a really nice oven of a box, so you can definitely keep it safe and secure there. It does have a little piece of plastic that goes on in between the shadows and the mirror to keep the shadows like safe or whatever. I throw those away almost every single time unless they have the shade names on them. And then this is the palette right here. You guys can see I have dug in quite a bit to this palette. I have gotten to all of the colors except for this pink here and this orange here. But other than that, all the other shades in this palette have been used. These are the shadows here. You have 7 shimmer shades and 13 mattes in this rainbow palette setup with, of course, some neutrals down here. And I would say that this is a great companion palette. I would say that this is a palette that you can get some really amazing looks out of just this one palette because of these neutral pieces in here. But I think that this palette lacks a smidge bit of depth or maybe even dimension. The darkest shade here is this one. This one looks very dark in the pan, but it's actually not super dark once you get it on your eye look and start blending it out. And as red as this looks in the pan, it's actually very, very pink. So I would say that those are some opportunities that I found with this palette. I don't feel like the color that is in the pan is what reigns true on your eye. And I feel like a lot of the colors that are in this shadow palette could easily be mistaken for another in your eye looks. So for instance, I have these 4 colors on my eyes today along with this guava shade up here. And I would, looking at my eye look, if I did not know where each one of these blues was placed on my eye, I think I would struggle to know that there was 2 different shades of blue on my eye. I would think maybe there was 1 shade of blue on my eye and just blended out. And that's not the case. On my upper eye area, there is both of those shades of blue, and I just don't think that you can see that dimension, that depth in between those 2 shades of blue. These 2 shadows here, these 2 shadows here very much looked the same shade on an eye look. Even these 2, like you couldn't really see the layers of dimension. And I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. It lacks dimension. I think it's a great companion palette, and I think it would behoove anybody's collection to have this palette in there. This is the perfect Instagram famous kind of eyeshadow palette because it is very pigmented. It goes on very well, and it works very well in like a pat, 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 leave it as it is kind of thought process. It doesn't do super well when you're trying to blend. I found that a lot of the shadow, a lot of the pigmentation, unless I had, you know, patted on and then blended it and then patted on again, and then didn't touch it, a lot of that pigmentation went away. But it is very, very, very pigmented. So I know a lot of Instagram looks look, you know, similar to this one. A lot of detail, a lot of intricacy, and a lot of time go into them. This eye look today took me about 2 hours to do. It was just a little bit more intricate, and honestly, I was really trying to come up with a way to show those two blues in a different light on my eye look, and I struggled with that, and I don't typically struggle with that kind of thing. So they just take time, right? This isn't going to be a palette that is going to be for somebody who is, number one, new to pigmentation, but also number two, trying to get anywhere in a hurry while also using these shadows. It's just not the best shadow palette for that. With that said, I also could not find out any information about what in the shadow palette was a shadow and what was an eyeshadow. And for those of you new to this like terminology or this differentiation, is a shadow can only be an eyeshadow if in the United States the FDA has approved its ingredients for eye use. I do think that there is probably some shadows in this palette that have pigments in them because it is cruelty-free and vegan, which are some telltale signs that some of those more pigmented shadows are not safe for eye use in the United States. But this palette doesn't state anywhere, and I can't find it on its website, and I can't find it anywhere whether they're for, you know, they're safe for eye use. With that said, obviously, I don't care. I'm gonna use the palette because that isn't a deal breaker for me. I have zero problems with it. And Angelica did a video when this first came out that I rewatched after I formulated my own opinions. She had a lot of the same thoughts as far as the dimension piece goes, but she said that an eyeball in the United States is the same as an eyeball in the UK, and in the UK those ingredients are perfectly safe for eyes. So there's no difference between your eye and somebody in the UK's eyes. So why would it be safe in one country and not in the other if it wasn't actually a safe ingredient? Now, that's not me telling you shame on you if you go like balls to the wall. If it says it's not eye safe, I'm not using it around my eyes. Good on you. But also, it's not something that bothers me. Sometimes I do get some irritation from shadows like that. I didn't experience any irritation from the shadows in this palette, except for the two shimmers that have a little bit of glitter fallout with them, and I think that those came from the glitter fallout and not from the pigmentations in the shadows. With that said, along the lines of fallout, you're going to see some fallout with this palette. I had an excruciating amount of fallout from this palette. I think it's very hard pressed in the pan, but as you dip your brush into it, it becomes very powdery in the pan. And if you do not tap off a lot, if you do not tap off, you will see fallout. There's a lot of fallout with this. I think the two shimmers, Guava and Cinnamon, which are this shadow here, which is in my eye look today, and this shadow here, which is the gold, which isn't my favorite, have quite a bit of chunkiness to them and have a lot of glitter that falls out with them. So there's that. This shadow palette works best on a base, so on an eye base, for longevity, but I think the pigmentation is good whether you're using it over the top of an eye base or on a dry eye. I think that its pigmentation is phenomenal. So that being said, I think that the wear time that I got out of these shadows at the longest wear time that I got out of these shadows was around that 8-hour mark. I did notice at that 8-hour mark significant fading in the shadows and also movement of the shadows. So like I would see like glitter start to translate onto my brow bone area. I would see like maybe even my lid space like completely vacant of shadow, whereas there was shadow there before. So I do have slightly hooded eyes, so maybe that's part of the problem, but I used multiple different primers to see what it reacted like to each kind of primer, and I don't think it changes whether it's a creamy primer or a dry primer. I do think that it changes, of course, with a glitter base. You're going to get a little bit more longevity out of the shadows for sure, but I try not to use a glitter base as much as possible. The shimmers do perform better wet or with your finger. I do think that they're brilliant and beautiful and just really like shiny, but I think that they're more impactful the wetter they are, or the more you use your finger with them. I think that guava and cinnamon, the two that I pointed out with the glitter, are better shimmers than the rest of the shimmers in the palette because they're brighter, they're shinier. The other ones perform kind of like a satiny hybrid. Yeah, I just think that it's a beautiful palette. I love the yellow in it. The matte yellow is so pigmented for a matte yellow. And I just really love the palette. I think it's a beautiful palette. I enjoyed working with the palette, and I am glad to have it in my collection. I just don't understand wholeheartedly all the hype that it was getting there towards the end of 2020. Because I don't think it's the end all speak all. I don't think it's the best rainbow palette that I have ever come across. I do think it's nice that it's a rainbow palette that includes both mattes and shimmers, because that doesn't happen like all the time. But I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it's the worst. I think that it's good. I just don't think that it's amazing. It's exciting to me, and I am excited to try the other Glamlite palettes in my collection, having tried this one. So yeah, there's that. I am going to do some swatches for you really quick, and then we will get you out of here. I want to say too that I feel like the mattes in this palette are so creamy, like so buttery creamy, that I almost think that they feel almost wet, and I think that lends to the blendability of them taking just a little bit longer, because they are just so buttery and creamy and smooth and beautiful once you do get them buffed into your skin. So I'm by no means saying that I think that they're awful, because I absolutely don't believe that. But okay, so I've got the first row here, and we have Banana, which is a yellow shimmer. It is beautiful, and it is more of that yellow than it is a gold. And then we have Pineapple, which is a yellow matte. Then we have Strawberry, which is a beautiful like fuchsia shimmer. Then we have Lavender, which is a beautiful lavender shimmer. And then we have Blueberry, which is a beautiful like deep purple shimmer. Second row, we have Guava, and this is a duochrome like pink to gold. It's such a pretty shadow. It is in the inner portion of my eye look today, blended into Blue Raspberry, which is towards the bottom, which we'll get to in a little bit. But oh, it is such a beautiful shadow. And then I have Peach, which is a really vibrant, like almost neon orange matte. It does look very red in the camera. Then we have Cranberry, which is a matte fuchsia on top of that shimmer fuchsia. Oob, I think it's called Oob. This is a matte lavender, probably the worst shadow in this palette. And that doesn't mean like worse like doesn't perform. That just means worse like takes a little bit more effort to get it to perform well, if that makes any sense. And then we have Purple Frost, which is a deep like purple matte. It does, again, take a little bit of effort to get it to be as deep as you want it to be, but those are the first two rows of this palette. These do stain. All right, these are the next shades, and we have Carrot, which is a beautiful orange to gold duochromatic, like peachy, beautiful shimmeriness. So pretty. Then we have Raspberry, which is like truly a hot pink matte. Then we have Red Velvet, which I think is supposed to be a red matte, but like I said, once on an eye look and blended out, it looks very pink. Looks very much like this pink actually right here. Then we have Birthday Cake, which is bright blue. Is in my eye look today. Then we have this one, Icy Mint, also in my eye look today, also bright blue. And I think that you guys can see that the dimension is just not. I'm a little disgusted at the moment because I got through the swatches, and my camera quit recording, and I didn't realize that it had quit recording. So I just kept talking. I just noticed a few minutes ago that it had quit recording. I was almost done with the video. I was wiping off my hands. My hands are so stained right now. So I went ahead and put in the majority of the swatches you guys saw through Icy Mint, which was the lighter of the blues. I am going to just show you the other 5 on my fingers right here. I think that you guys can see just how beautiful these shadows are, just how gorgeous this palette is through the swatches that, you know, I was able to swatch out, but also through these guys here on my finger right now. I think that this shadow palette is a really great palette. I do think that it is a beautiful complementary piece to anybody's collection. I do think that even just this palette as a standalone palette could be in people's collections who prefer color. I did think that I was going to have an easier time this week than I did with trying to create eye looks for you. I think that you got like 3 or 4 eye look pictures out of this week, but the truth of the matter is I struggled with the time that this palette took me to create an eye look. I thought that being at home this week doing SM onboarding, it doesn't start until 10 o'clock. I would have plenty of time to come up with these great creative eye looks. And that just wasn't the case because this palette did take quite a bit of time to work with. I don't think that this palette is a great palette for a first-time user. I don't think that this is a great standalone palette. For me, it's lacking quite a different feel from shadow to shadow to shadow. I also I think that if you're not real in tune to how to work with a pigment or how to work with color that is so in your face, so Instagram worthy, then this palette is going to do nothing but frustrate you. So this maybe isn't the palette for you. I do think that this palette with its pops of neutrals, the brown, the oranges, the you know, that last like maybe 9 block here, could really play well in anybody's everyday makeup drawer. But I also think that when it comes down to it, it's just a companion piece, and I think that that's okay. The shadows in here, the mattes in this palette are so super buttery smooth to the touch that I do feel like that's probably the struggle, right? And making sure that they blend well. You see that with mini cream to powder formulas, and that's what these feel like in their pan. I love this palette. I'll keep it in my collection, and I cannot wait to use another Glamlite palette in you know, palette roulette coming very soon. But I'm really impressed with the pigmentation of this palette. There are some, you know, opportunities, but every palette has opportunities, to be fair. So I love this palette. It's probably not going to be one that I say, yes, absolutely go get, but I could see that being the case for, you know, a non-rainbow palette from the same brand. She has some pretty amazing palettes out there. So, with that said, I am going to go pick my new palette, and I will be right back. Okay, guys, this week is another week of newness, but it's also another week that I will be testing out 2 palettes. So I am going to use the 2 Lime Crime palettes that I recently picked up in, I think last month's haul, actually. So I do have the Venus palette and the Prelude palette, and I'm really super excited to use them both. This is the Prelude palette. It has the really beautiful like swampiness in it, and then this is of course the Venus palette, which is very cool toned. I think they're both very cool toned, but I'm excited to use them in conjunction with each other, because when I look at them across the board, like I'm like, these palettes will work beautifully with each other. So I'm excited to use both of these palettes over the next week. I hope that you are also excited to hear my thoughts on them. And if you are, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there. Hit the little bell next to it so that you're notified every single time I upload. I do come to you every single Monday with these videos, but I also upload multiple times a week. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts and opinions on these two palettes down in the comments section, but also if you have tried anything from Glamlite, please let us know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section on that palette as well. We all need to learn from each other. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that your 2021 is treating you kindly so far. I hope it's almost over. I hope your September was awesome. I hope your October is going superb. I am just so excited to be rolling into fall. I love fall. So I hope that the world is treating you all kindly. I hope that you and yours are well and good and in a great place and just trying to kick it as best you can in this chaotic world that we are living in currently. I hope that you all are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends.